PFF is running one of their biggest sales ever. 40% off a PFF Plus subscription right now using the promo code BLACKFRIDAY. That means that you get everything fully unlocked. You get the grades, you get the stats, you get all the fantasy advice, the betting advice, which our new player prop tool is available on web as well to make you a smarter, better. You've got all of the draft analysis, the free agency analysis, all of that great stuff. Subscribe.pff.com to get 40% off a year-long PFF Plus subscription. Get it now. Let's dig into it, though. Let's get right into Thanksgiving slate. Lions, Packers. So it's in Detroit. Of course it is. It's Thanksgiving. It's a tradition that we have here. Dalton, we'll talk about both sides of the ball here. You want to talk about the Packers side of things? You want to start talking about the Lions side of things?
I think, look, there's been a lot of debate about the Packers offense and how it should be run and how much should they run the ball, how much should they throw it, where should they throw it deep, be conservative, how should they go about this? But the one thing I've seen over the 5 games that he's played, Christian Watson has made a real impact since coming back from injury here. How about an 83.4 receiving grade for Christian Watson, 16.6 yards per catch, almost a 20-yard average depth of target. Basically, the speed threat, the guy that was supposed to take the safeties off the top all season was supposed to be Matthew Golden. He's come down with an injury or two lately, and he just hasn't been all that efficient. Christian Watson has come in and done that, right? And we know in his scouting report originally, he's big and he's fast. Those are the two big appeals to him, and he's made it happen deep down the field. And you get this again, this pendulum I keep talking about with this Packers offense of controlling safeties and controlling the depth of zone coverages. Watson is the guy getting that done right now. It plays down the field, and how about 8 out of 12 so far uncontested targets? So I think when you really look at Watson and what he's added to this team, really it was the dimension that Golden was supposed to add. Maybe eventually you get both of them involved, and it's really interesting too that since Tucker Kraft went down with his torn ACL, that the Packers have had to use 11 personnel at a top 5 rate. So they need these wide receivers to step up. Right now Christian Watson is doing it. He had a big game against Detroit last year in Detroit as well in a Packer victory. I have to sit here and wonder that, if Watson can be that deep threat again and take those safeties off the top, that it opens things up for everybody else, because that's what's been happening lately.
Yeah, I think that was the ideal role for him going into the season, right? They had so many different wide receivers and tight ends. We'll throw the tight ends obviously in there too with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave and those guys, but there were a lot of different receivers with Christian Watson who they knew was going to come back from injury. You had Romeo Doubs, you had Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. There were just so many players in this offense, but even with them fully healthy on paper, this was the role that I think a lot of people just knew Christian Watson was going to give them the biggest return on investment. So him being back in the lineup, him playing really well, especially as that vertical deep threat, I mean, that's an element of their offense that they have looked to him to fill, honestly, the entire time that he's been with the Packers. But certainly this year, it's meaning a lot with a couple of those other receivers and tight ends, like I mentioned with Tucker Kraft down for the season. So I think that makes a ton of sense for him being an X factor here in this game. You've talked about this before. We talked about this as recently as 2 days ago when we were going over the review show. The Lions, when they run the football well, they're very, very difficult to stop. And sometimes football can be boiled down to some things that are as simple as that. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs over 200 yards rushing last week, over 14 yards per carry, which was insane. Now, it doesn't have to quite be that every single week, but if this team is running the ball effectively and explosively, it's just really hard to beat them. It's really hard to beat this team. Now, the Packers, they are 22nd in average run defense grade and EPA per rush allowed over the last month. So I didn't just go the whole season. I went over the last months for a little bit of a what have you been doing for me lately kind of view on this topic. And I think that the Packers had the ability to slow down the Lions in the run, but they certainly haven't showed that as of late. There have been times during this season where Jeff Hafley and that defense have been playing really, really well. I mean, when the offense wasn't playing well, whatever it was 3-4 weeks ago, it was the defense that was having to hold up their end of the bargain and then some in order for the Packers to get some wins there during that stretch. It's kind of evened out a little bit, and defense is a little bit more up and down than offense normally is throughout a season anyways. And so they'll have to have their best performance against the run, I think, over the last month if they are going to beat the Detroit Lions. Ultimately, Dalton, I don't think they do. I'm taking the Detroit Lions in this one. I'm taking the home team. I think the Lions are playing really well, and I just think that they're going to get the best of the Packers in this one. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a fun game, but I do think that Detroit's going to be able to run the ball the way they need to win this one. I'm going to go Lions 28, Packers 23. What do you got here?
I had a really hard time picking this game. I was originally on the Lions, and then just before the show, I actually switched to the Packers. I have Green Bay 27-24, and I think the one X factor for me is I need to know which Jared Goff that we're getting, and he's, as he generally has been for the last few years, he's been one of the lowest graded passers in football under pressure, and I still worry about the Micah Parsons effect, and the Packers are moving him around all around the line of scrimmage in recent weeks, getting him in the A-gaps, over the center, getting more creative with him as the season goes on. I think Jeff Hafley's done a really nice job of that. I worry about Jared Goff in big spots here, and it's an interesting element for both of these offenses having lost their starting tight ends for the entire season, or we're expecting Sam Laporta to be out for the rest of the season. But I'm going to take Green Bay. I think this is a really hard game to pick, but I'm just not sure that Jared Goff is going to be able to get it done against this defense.